everybody, I'm Corinne Blackstone and welcome to my craft room. In today's video, we are going to be talking all about how to use Printable HTV for lights. There are a lot of things about this product that make it a little more difficult to use versus just like regular HTV or even Printable HTV for darks. There's definitely some little tips and tricks that will make your projects come out way better than if you were to just jump into it and give it a shot. So I've got those tips and tricks for you here today. And before we get started, be sure that you're subscribed here on YouTube. That way you don't miss out on any of the fun, crafty content we have coming. I'm also going to be using StarCraft brand for lights. This is one of my favorite printable HTVs. I will link it down below, and you can always use code Corinne to save 5% when you shop with 143 Vinyl. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with the design that we want Cricut to cut out. That way you can see how to use your Cricut with this, but then we can also do one where we cut it out by hand. So the one that I'm going to use is a single piece image, and what I mean when I say that is that there's no parts of this image that aren't attached to other parts. So it's one single piece. Now I am likely going to need to add a little offset to this just because I can see some of the book pages might cut a little weird, but we'll take a look at that in Design Space. Now what we need to do here is simply click download, and it's going to bring up and ask where we want to save this into our designs area in our computer. I've got everything pretty well organized, so this is going into my Halloween folder. I'm going to click save, but I still need to do one more step in order to use this. I need to open the folder that I just downloaded, and I need to extract that image. So all I have to do is click extract all and then click extract. Now we want to be able to use the image, so this is the one we're using. I'm going to go ahead and close the folder that has the extract at the top, and we'll head over to Design Space and upload this. In Design Space, all we need to do is click upload, and then you can click upload image, and you can either browse for it or drag and drop it from the folder that you just extracted. I personally prefer to drag and drop, so I'm going to drag it and drop it over into Design Space. Now it may take a moment for it to load. Usually PNG images like this are pretty high quality, so they take a little bit longer. I'm going to click continue from here, and then all I simply have to do is click apply and continue once this image comes up. Because this is a PNG with a transparent background, there isn't anything that we need to do here on this remove background screen. Go ahead, click apply and continue. Now it's going to bring up our next screen. And in this one, we have the multi-layer version, the single layer version, and then over here we have the flat graphic. What we want is the flat graphic because this one is our print and cut image. Go ahead and click continue. Now from here, you can change your image name if you want to. Like that's kind of long, so I'm just going to call it Halloween Classic Books, and type that correctly would be nice. And then you can enter keywords. So if you want to add like Halloween, books, pumpkin, book stack, whatever words you want to add there, that'll help you find it later on if you ever want to use it again. Then click upload, and it'll put it right into our canvas. It's probably going to load it pretty large. Now, like I said, it loaded absolutely enormous. So the first thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and size it down. That way we can take a look at the design. I think it looks really cute. I think this is going to be a fun one. But my concern is these edges right here. I just want to make sure that they're not going to cut really weird. So one of the ways that I can check that is I change the color of my canvas, and I want to just change it to something completely different than what's on our design. So you can see here I just changed it to blue, and this is right here where I have my concern. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in, and I can see that we do have some kind of jumbly edges along the edges of our books. So because the Printable HTV for lights is actually a clear adhesive that you're printing on, we can add a really small offset just to help so it doesn't rip this little edge. All I'm going to do is select my design. I'm going to click offset. Now I don't want to use a large offset at all. I want something really, really, really small. So I'm going to go ahead and put this all the way down, and actually I think I'm going to go with like 0.00, let's go with 0.02 and just see what that looks like. And we're going to leave it white so that it won't show, but I think that's perfect. That way it just gives us a little edge to it. I'm going to click apply, and I'm going to actually possibly leave it black. I kind of like it, the black outline on it. I think that looks really good. Now, the next step that I need to do is I need to select the design and the offset, which I can just draw a square around both of them. And I want to choose the flatten option. That tells Design Space not to cut anything out around the original image. It wants us to cut only around our offset. So that's perfect. Now, of course, we want to size this so it's as big as it can possibly be for our design. So what I want to use is one of my print and cut templates. Now that I've added this in, I do need to resize it. So I see that it says 7.44. I know for a fact because of some updates, it needs to be 7.43 for whatever reason. Now this is how we're gonna size our design. I'm gonna right click on this and I'm gonna send this to the back so that it's behind my pumpkin. And I'll go ahead and slide back out a little bit. I'm gonna put this design on top of this, and then I just want to pull it out and make it as big as I possibly can. That way it takes up as much space as possible. Now currently it's saying that it cannot do this, and sometimes it's a little bit weird when it decides that it doesn't want to print the right size. So one thing that I always say before you go into this is I want you to go up to your words or up to your settings here. Go under settings, and I want you to always double check your load type. So my load type is set to 8.5 by 11 letter paper, which is perfect. And then I'm going to click done. Now you can see that this should fit within the parameters that we have, but for whatever reason, Design Space says that it doesn't. Now we can let it do our auto resize. If you click on that, it'll resize your image sometimes to fit. But like, look how much extra space we have. I don't know why it won't allow our design to go any bigger. And my best guess is because of this edge right here, because it's going to be a little bit too big down here, even though we could move it like this and it would fit fine. So Design Space is a little bit weird about that. It won't let this section right here go any bigger than the bottom part, even though we obviously can fit it larger. That's just one of the downfalls to Design Space, but we're going to print outside of Design Space for our other design to show you that you can make it bigger, since you don't technically need the Cricut to cut these designs. Now I'm going to go ahead and hide my template. I'm going to change my color of my canvas back to white just for, you know, visual purposes. And then I'm going to save my design before I do anything else. And I'm going to call this Halloween Books. Go ahead and click Save. Now, when you're working with Printable HTV for lights, you need to mirror your image. Now, I find it a lot easier because I'm going to be cutting this on a cardstock setting to flip my image, and I flip it horizontal and that mirrors it. Now, I do want to make sure I save it again just so I don't forget to do that. Then all I want to do from here is click Make, and it'll be mirrored on my printable, and then when I go to cut it on the mat, it'll still be mirrored. That way you don't need to try to remember to do any of that later on. Now they do have an auto mirror feature, but again, I cut this on a cardstock setting that does not count for the auto mirror feature. Your auto mirror feature only works with everyday iron-on or other iron-on settings, or the infusible ink setting. Now I'm going to go ahead and click Continue, and it's not going to cut right now, but what we're going to do is print. So I want to click Send to Printer, and it's going to bring up this page, this printer setup. Now you want to make sure you have your correct printer selected. So I use my Epson EcoTank 2720. They don't make that model anymore, but I'll link a comparable one down below for you. I love my inkjet printer. And then you want to add the bleed. That's just going to push that black out just a little bit further out. You don't have to do that, but you can. Since our backing is clear, it does not matter. You're not going to notice it. I'm personally a fan of turning it off when I just have a clear background that even if it cuts a little bit off, isn't going to make a difference. Then I want to use my system dialog, and that is going to open up our printer preferences when we click print. It won't send it directly to your printer just yet. Once it opens your printer dialog settings here, I want you to make sure again you have the correct printer selected. Then you want to go under preferences and you want to do a few changes here. The first thing, make sure your document size is the same size that you're working with. The next is I want to go into my paper type, and I find that using for the printable HTV for lights, I find that using the presentation paper matte works really, really well. I want to change my quality from standard to high. That's just going to give you a really good quality print. And then you want to make sure color is selected. Now I have one more setting that I change under my more options where I turn off my high speed print. So in order to do that, you just find the additional settings down here and click high speed print. If for some reason your printer doesn't have all of these settings when you open it, go to your printer manufacturer's website, find the drivers for your printer and reinstall them. It usually just means you didn't install them correctly the first time. Then all you have to do is click OK and click print to send it to your printer. For our second design, we're going to use one where you wouldn't want to use your Cricut to cut it. You want to use your own scissors, because I want you to look at this design right here. Look at all these little fun elements that are sticking out on the side of our main image. If you were to use your Cricut, those would all cut individually, or you would have to use a pretty big offset, so it kind of defeats the whole purpose. So we're going to use our hands to cut this out, and it's definitely a great option when you want to make your own designs. Now with this one, all we simply have to do is click download, just like the last one, so all these steps are going to be the same. I'm going to save it to that Halloween folder, click save, and then open that folder once it's downloaded and extract those files just like I did the first time. So it's really easy to do once you get the hang of this part. This part's super simple, really quick, really easy. Just click extract. Now for this image, I'm going to go ahead and open it up and take a look at it. Look how cool. This is going to be such a cute image. I'm really excited to use this one. I think the colors are great. I think it's super fun. Now there's a couple of ways you can print this. You can print it right here from your PNG file, but don't use Cricut because you're not going to be able to fill the whole page with this one. Since we don't want it to cut, we want to make it as big as possible. I like to use Inkscape. It's a completely free program, but you can use all sorts of things. You can use Word, you can use Canva, you can use Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop. There are so many ways to print, so don't feel like you have to print it like I'm printing it, but whatever way that you like to print your projects, you can print your project. It will be just fine. Now what I want to do is I'm going to do two things first before I even enter my image. I'm going to go into my file and I'm going to choose my document properties. Mine always defaults to A4. I'm going to default it to US letter, and then go ahead and change my display units to inches. Then close this out, and then you can zoom in a bit if you want to onto this page. This is your printable area. Then all I want to do is go to file, and I can use import, or I can drag and drop, whatever works best for you. It's up to you. You do whatever works for you and how you kind of want to work with your design. It's up to you. I'm going to go ahead and import that. Just click OK right there and it'll bring in our image. Now it's gigantic because this is a high quality PNG. So I'm going to go ahead and size this down. Now right here, you see this lock. You want to make sure that that's closed, and then I'm just going to change my width for now to 5. Now it may look like it disappeared. It didn't. You just need to zoom out and find where it went to on your paper. Then I'm going to go ahead and zoom back in. Sometimes Inkscape can be a little bit weird. Now the next thing I want to do is expand this so that it takes up as much of my paper as possible. Now I want you to note that it really is pretty much a square, so no matter which way you print it on your paper, you're pretty much going to get the same size. Now what I want to do is I'm going to hold Control on my keyboard. That's going to keep my scale correct. I don't want to mess with that scaling of my image. And I'm going to put this pretty close to the edge, and then I'm just going to go ahead and expand this out just a little bit. And I think that looks pretty good. So we're getting a pretty big image. We're getting almost 8.5, which is pretty large. It's bigger than we were able to do with Cricut. So once we've got our image and we're happy with it, there's a couple of ways that we can mirror our design. Because remember, no matter what, we have to mirror our design when we're using printable HTV for lights. Because with this one, it goes image face down. So that's why we do it that way. So in order to mirror this image, you can do it a couple ways. So I'm going to show you the couple ways that you can do it. Number one is that you can use the flip option here in Inkscape. Very similar to Cricut. It's got like a couple different options to flip, but you want to use flip horizontal, and you'll see that that mirrors your image. Now, if you don't want to do it that way, you can do it in your printer as well. So we can go to File and Print. And then because we're hand cutting this, it doesn't matter if we flip it here and not on the screen. Then I can go to preferences, and this is really similar to what we did with Cricut Design Space, but we'll add one more step. So paper type, you want to change from plain paper over to premium presentation paper matte or presentation paper matte. Then you want to do standard to high. Make sure that color is selected. Go under more options. You want to turn off that high-speed print, but for this one, we want to turn on mirror image. That's going to make sure that the printer prints out our image in that mirrored format. So you can do it one of two ways. It's really up to you, however you want to do it. I'm going to go ahead and click OK and click print to send this to my printer. We're ready to cut our design. So I put it on to my mat. I am using a light grip mat for this. And then I'm just going to get this on here. And you want to make sure it's well pressed down. And then I'm just going to load this. Now I'm cutting this on the medium cardstock setting. I want to make sure that it cuts through the front part and the backing. That way we're only left with our design. Once it's done cutting, I am going to double check my cut setting just to make sure that it cut all the way through, which it did. I'll unload this, and then I'm going to carefully unload this from my mat. And this is what we're going to be pressing to our shirt, and you press it with the logo side, so I'm using StarCraft, with this side up, and you want to put the ink side to your shirt, which I'll show you in just a minute. Let me get the machine out of the way, and I'm going to show you how we do the other one. Now, for this one, we're just going to use scissors, and we're just going to carefully cut around our design. And we're going to cut pretty close, but we don't have to cut, you know, super neat because, like I said, the backing on this is clear. So I do tend to give like a little bit of an in cut around some of the sections, just so there's a little bit less of that adhesive hanging out on the shirt. But for the most part, I'm just going to cut around this design and get it just sort of, you know, kind of close by. It doesn't have to be a perfect cut. It doesn't have to be anything too crazy. I just like to get a little closer to the design. And the reason, like I said, that this one wouldn't work for a print then cut is because of all these teeny little details all around our design. So the little bubbles and the bats and the stars, none of that is going to work well for a print then cut without having it have to use an offset, and I just think that would kind of defeat the purpose. So this is one design, and then this is our other. And I'm going to show you that this one won't show all this white around it because this is a clear adhesive that it's printed on. I'm so excited to get these pressed. We're going to be using white shirts for this, which is the best color to use when making any kind of a transfer using the Printable HTV for lights. And the reason for this is actually transparent. So right now it looks really like dark and nice and, you know, colorful, but when we press it, this is actually transparent. So when I press it on to white, it should stay really true to color. But when we go to press it, if we were to press it on black, you wouldn't even see it. If you were going to press it on to green, it would affect the color of the different prints. If you were to press it on pink, that would affect any of the color on there as well. So that's why we use white shirts for this. And all I do is I just do it like I do any other. I line it up, get it where I want it, and then I move it to the press. Now, I would not recommend putting any kind of heat tape on this or anything like that. You just want your design onto your shirt. So I'm going to do both of them at the same time. This presses at 375 degrees for 30 seconds, and you're going to want to use a firm pressure. We're at our press. You can see that I have my design down on my shirt, where I want it. Teflon sheet on my press. You want to make sure you have that. And this is set to 375 degrees for 30 seconds with firm pressure. Once it's done, go ahead and pull up your press, and you're going to peel the backing hot. Now, I will warn you, it is hot, so your fingers may feel it a little bit, but you want to make sure you peel that hot. And look at how gorgeous this came out. Your backing may feel a little sticky. That's completely normal because this is basically an adhesive, and this might feel a little bit sticky too while it's still warm. So just be aware of that. Now I'm going to set this over to the side. Make sure that you don't fold it up on itself while it's still hot because that could cause it to stick together. So you just want to be aware of that. I'm going to switch this one out for our other shirt and get that one pressed too. I've got my next shirt ready to go, and I'm just going to make sure my press is facing, or my design is facing the right way. And then I just use about 3 fingers down from the collar get that where I want it. And again, we'll just press this one, and I'm going to show you that you're not going to see any of that white around your design, which is one of the best things about the Printable HTV for lights. Now that it's done, again, lift that press, and then you're going to, again, peel the backing off. And again, it is going to be quite warm, but you're going to go ahead and peel that backing off. Look how cute and bright. So I'm going to let these both cool down, and then I'll show you what they look like up close. Our shirts are all finished, and I think they came out really, really well. So I want to show you the edges of the book shirt just so you can see how nicely this cut. And I did, again, use the medium cardstock setting because I wanted to make sure it went through both layers of the Printable HTV for lights. But I think it came out really, really nice, especially adding that little extra offset. I just like the way it looked a little bit better. And you can see the Cricut cut it absolutely perfectly. And then this one is the one where we cut it by hand, and I want to show you that you can't see any of those edges with this product, which is really, really nice. Now again, you want to use this on a white shirt as it is basically a clear adhesive product, and putting it on any other color shirt is going to affect the color of your print. So that's something to keep in mind when you're using this. Now you can use it on other light colored shirts, but it will, like I said, affect that color. If you have any questions about this, please feel free to put those in the comments down below. I'm always happy to answer any questions that you have. And if you're going to shop with 143 Vinyl, be sure to use code Corinne and save that 5% anytime you shop with them. It doesn't cost you anymore. It actually saves you money. And I'll link everything we used down below. I hope you all have a wonderful day. And as always, happy crafting.